Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Awaken Your Soul's Journey podcast. I'm Angela, and today I have with me Catherine Duncan. And Catherine is an integrative spiritual consultant, a former trauma and hospice chaplain, and a first time author of a new book, Everyday Awakening. And in her book, as well as her private practice, she counsels people on what it means to be alive and how to awaken into your heart and soul. She has faced her death twice and companioned hundreds of people as they died. The deep peace and sense of the other side she witnessed was profound and soul shaping. And she says we can all awaken, and it is a choice how we are choosing to live each day. And I absolutely love that. I really, truly believe it is a choice. And so, welcome to the podcast, Catherine.
Great to meet you. Thanks for having me on today.
Yeah, it's so nice. So, tell us a little bit about what prompted you to write this book?
Well, I think writing a book is a calling. And I'm a mystic, I'm intuitive, I get a lot, I see a lot. And 10 years prior, I actually saw a vision of the book. I saw the book and I saw me writing a book, and even in fact told my then teenage kids and my husband, and they're like, great, mom. And then actually the pandemic, well, I started feeling this nudging to write. So I started blog writing in 2016, 17, 18. And then when the pandemic happened, my whole practice went online, and I just felt this pushing, nudging to sit down and start typing. So at night, I would pray and meditate and then start writing, and it just poured through me night after night after night after night, week after week, month after month. And felt the nudging to write this book. And here we are.
Wow. Yeah. So you definitely are really connected to your intuition.
Mm-hmm.
You've been using that to guide you, which we're all looking forward to, I think, especially the listeners in this group, hearing more about how that connection happened and how we can nurture that connection. So tell us more.
Well, I would say for me, my path really opened up and listening in what does it mean to be alive. When I was 11 years old, I was suddenly diagnosed. I was very ill, and I was diagnosed with a very rare form of childhood cancer. I was told by the doctors to my parents that I had a 20% chance to live. I started going through really intensive treatments, and this is in the 70s. And in the 70s, they did have chaplains, they did have counselors, but no one talked to me. It's not like today where that's really advanced in how to work with children and parents. They really didn't have that back in the 70s. I started going through all these intensive treatments, and I pretty quickly felt like I was between life and death. It was just, I was walking on a tightrope, and out of nowhere, I actually started praying. I realized I wanted to live. I didn't want to die. Faith up to that point really had meant nothing to me. We intermittently would go to a Lutheran church, but I just started to pray to live. And my prayer was, could I live to be 20 years old? And I prayed and prayed. And not long after, this feeling of just peace, like poured through my body, took my breath away. And it was a knowing at such a young age that I wasn't alone, that I was going to live, that I was going to go get through this experience. And that has been with me to this day, that feeling and that awakening into just the preciousness of life I learned at a very young age.
That's wonderful. Yeah. And there's a lot of stories like that. I think people get close to death, they get sick, or something really challenging happens in their life. And then, we reach out and we find that connection. And it's so beautiful when we do that. Yeah. And so you built this connection, and now, your everyday awakening, it seems like your message is to like live your life in the way that you are always connected to that source.
Yep, absolutely. And that was the impetus of my book, of my personal experiences facing death, also being with so many people, hundreds of people as a chaplain in crisis, end of life, and witnessing so many people as a chaplain who, before they died, if it was days, weeks, they were just like a preciousness about life and what it means to be alive. And then they would die, and realizing, you don't have to wait till you're at end of life, or you're in a crisis, or you're in upheaval. We can, every one of us listening, choose to feel the preciousness of life living out of our heart and soul today. It's a choice, it's a practice that we can all open into.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that, opening your heart and soul. So
Mm-hmm.
tell us a little bit more about, what are your practices for doing that?
Yep. So in my book, I have 5 practices, and these are 5 practices that I've lived organically most of my life. The practices start with the first one: come back to the present moment. And I can say more about that, but that's the starting place of living here now in this moment, not our thinking mind that creates so much suffering, and that peace, that ease. It's not found when we're in our thinking mind. So come back to the present moment. The second is connect with something greater. The third is grow your trust, embody love, and hold openness. So in my book, I have 42 exercises, how to do it, how to feel into the moment, how to feel love, how to feel into flow, that oneness with the universe, how to feel all that. So my book is not just being in your mind theory, but actually hands-on, different angles of how to come at this to feel into the preciousness of life.
Wow. Yeah. And I know how difficult this can be because I've been trying to stay more connected. And, you wake up in the morning and you do your meditation or whatever, and then you're just all connected and you think, okay, everything I go to do today, I'm just going to check in and I'm going to be present. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be open. And then I don't know what happens. But you get busy, you start, and you forget, right? You forget that you need to stay connected. So give the listeners a little taste of maybe one of those ideas of how to stay connected during the day.
Mhm. Yeah, I can share a couple quick ones, but I think what happens is our thinking mind takes over. We're in our mind, and then when we're in our mind, we're in the past, the future. We just lose a sense of just being in the moment. Our mind is running us, and we live on what's called autopilot. Our mind is running us versus us running our mind. So a couple quick examples: even just practicing presence, mindfulness, being in the moment right now. So while I'm talking, can you feel your hands, your fingers, whatever's there? Just feel your hands, whatever you notice. When you feel your hands, you drop from your thinking mind into your body. Our body's always in the present moment, just feeling into here and now. It's like whatever's there. And you can practice different examples of mindfulness. I love doing this in the morning. In the morning, I drink 1 cup of coffee. And going into your kitchen, you make your coffee, you pour yourself a cup of coffee, and for a minute, 2, 3 minutes, if you can do it 5 minutes, great. You don't have your TV, radio, the phone, computer, so many distractions. You just hold your coffee cup, and you're just present drinking your coffee, just fully present. The smell, the savoring, the taste, everything about it. That's an example of practicing present moment. You can do it also with your breath, meditation, body movements, using your senses. There are many ways.
Mm. And so, do you find as you practice these, it becomes more automatic for you?
It becomes a habit. It usually takes about 66 days to create a habit. So I just invite people I work with, even listening right now, how are you choosing to live each day? Even a simple example, this is a practice I've done for years. Just even how you start in the morning. How do you start your day? So for me, I practice gratitude when I wake up, and I have a few minutes before I wake up. I have a few minutes of gratitude, thankfulness. I think about I'm alive. I'm here. I have a bed. I have family, friends. So I think about gratitude, but then I feel it. Thankfulness, gratitude, highest vibrational energy, some of the highest we can hold in our body. And I can feel that energy coursing in my body. And then I can feel my soul, my heart, just everything moving and opening. And then I have a few minutes of prayer, and then I see the flow of my day. I do that before I get out of bed. This sets the tone for my day. The opposite, you wake up, you grab your phone, you start thinking about everything you have to do, and you can already be in a stress response before you get out of bed. So that's just one example of how are you intentionally living your life and creating moments of presence. And the more you do, I find the more your body craves it. It craves that stillness, that silence. And that's where that peace and ease and the guidance, internal and from the universe, it's all there. It's not in our thinking mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And that mind can get going and really running away with all kinds of stories that a lot of them aren't even true.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, and the whole practice, I love the gratitude thing because that is what got me through when my husband was sick. Every night I had a gratitude journal. There's a whole story with that, but I wrote in that every night before I went to bed. And I know that saved me because it kept me
Mhm.
focused on what good there was around me when this everything was imploding.
Mhm.
So I know that the gratitude practice works. And I also know it's really hard when the heat of the moment, when your mind is really going and you're in that state of anxiety, to get into that gratitude,
Mhm.
to get yourself there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely practice, tuning in. I say, building that awareness muscle of where are you all day long? Do you spend most of the day in your mind, or are you taking moments where you're just really here and now, taking a break? And I think we can live multi-dimensionally. We can live and learn to live where our anchor is in the present moment, but we use our mind, like, to access information and speaking, you use your mind, but you can live on all these levels, but with the anchor of being here and now.
Mm. So tell me a little bit more about this multidimensional because I know I've talked about this with other people. And I understand as humans, we can do or feel more than one thing at a time.
Mhm.
So explain that a little bit more.
When I think multidimensionally, I think what this means to me is living with your anchor in the present moment, just fully here and now. Then accessing your mind when you need to for data, for communication, so when you're accessing your mind, but your anchor's in the present moment. And I mean, I'm a mystic. I see spirits regularly. I see angels. I see a lot. So it's like you can embrace all of that and live multidimensionally. I think that's our calling as far as being human and living out of our heart, which I think is the doorway to our soul, that sense of oneness with the universe, living from that really deep-seated place as possible every day.
Wow, that's amazing. And something to really work towards.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I work at this too. I mean, I'm human and I get caught sometimes where all of us, all of a sudden there's a negative thought or a critical thought or something happens and all of a sudden like, boom, my mind goes over here and I just am really mindful, like, boom, there I went. And then I come back. I just come back into the moment.
Mhm. Tell me a little bit more about your work as a hospice chaplain. Tell me a little bit more about working with people at the end of life and what else you've learned from that.
Yeah. So for a number of years, I worked as a hospice chaplain. I also worked as a chaplain at our level 1 trauma hospital. I now have a private practice where I see people one-on-one and provide emotional, spiritual support. But the years that I was a hospice chaplain, I was with people, end of life and dying every day. It was such sacred work. It was a calling, very, very sacred, very precious to walk with people as they're getting ready to leave this world. And that's really when some of the mystical experiences I had really opened up, where I was with people as they died. And then within days to a week, many people would come back in the middle of the night, and I would open my eyes, and there they would be, the form of their spirit, and just kind of nodding like a thank you, and then shoot, then they'd be gone. And to me, it was just an affirmation that there's so much more beyond this physical body. There's so many dimensions, and also that death is not an end. We go on, our spirit goes on. I've seen way too much. So we transform out of our body. Our body does end and die, but our spirit, our soul or spirit's eternal.
Mm-hmm. I think that is so comforting, being
Mm-hmm.
able to truly know that. We hear about that, but to truly know and understand that, I think is
Mm-hmm.
really helpful, especially
Yep.
for people in grief. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. And I experienced it not only when people were dying, but in the process of dying, people would say, oh, there's my mother over in the corner, and she passed away 20 years ago, and you could see spirits and angels in the room. And it was such sacred work, very sacred work.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so beautiful. Yeah. So tell us, your book just came out.
No, last summer,
Oh,
yeah, a year ago. And it's been exciting. I'm already in my second print run, and I'm doing book signings, different cities throughout the country. And yeah, it's been very fun meeting a lot of amazing people.
mhm. Yeah. And it's interesting knowing that you needed to write the book, you wrote the book, and I'm feeling this with you because I'm in this process. So I'm feeling like this energy and the excitement around that whole piece, and
Mhm.
and the gratification of having that information out that's been wanting to come out, or getting it out there. Yeah. Hmm.
It's a process. Yeah. It was writing the book was almost the easy part. And then it's like, wow, all the social media. And I mean, there's just, it's a choice. And yet it's also been a very big deepening for me, the process of launching a book. So
Yeah. How can people find your book? How can they find you if they want to ask you questions?
yeah, absolutely. My website, you can go to everydayawakening.com. My book, Everyday Awakening, is on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. It's all over. So you can easily find it. You could even just Google my name, Catherine with a C, Catherine Duncan.
And I was on your website and I seen some videos that you've already
Mhm.
done. So there was some interviews that you've done there. So if people are interested in that, they can certainly go and watch and learn more. And is there anything else you'd like to add before we go?
Yeah. Just inviting everyone who's listening, inviting you to just really tune inward of how do you want to live your life? What's important to you? And even though I know life can be challenging, I so understand that. Challenging, it can be messy, but choosing, notice, are you wanting more? Are you wanting more peace and ease and joy? And it's all here, and it's all possible. And it's, really comes down to how do you want to live each day? It's a choice to feel into that preciousness of life. And all of us, I think, listening, we've all felt it. If it's that sense of awe, wonderment of like time stops, and you're just like, wow, just the preciousness of now. That's what I'm talking about, living from that place regularly and living from a place of peace and ease in your heart. That's not in your living head up, in your thinking mind. And it's all possible for all of us. But it is also, it comes down to, it's a choice, it's a practice. And how are you choosing to live?
Yeah. I love that message because, well, first of all, it gives you hope that you can live that life, because I think a lot of people have practiced and maybe not been able to carry it through or to continue it. I mean, I'm still on that journey.
Mhm.
Yet, you give that message of hope, but then you also give practical tips and exercises to that people can choose from. So I think it's great. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, great to talk with you. Thank you for
Yes.
having me on your show.
Yeah. Thanks so much for joining me. And I know everybody's going to love this interview and what they can learn from this. So thank you very much. And thanks everyone for watching, and bye for now.